Hello, this video is to show you how to solve problems if your Power BI does not recognize your date as date, and therefore you cannot analyze your data because of that problem. And the other things that we'll also be talking about, I said show you this particular example. To get started with your Power BI, as usual, you go to Get Data, or you basically use this function here, which says import data from a Z. So depending on where your data come from. So if I'm getting data from other sources, then I could use this get data. So in this case, my data is on a Z spreadsheet. So I'll basically use import data and then choose the data I want to import and click open. So I'll click open and it's going to show me dialog to select the worksheet I want. So I want worksheet, which is the customer ID and location. And I also want the worksheet which says the various products. And basically, if I want any other data here, I could check what is there in the data by just simply clicking on it. And this is probably not what I'm looking for. So in this case, I will simply just untick it. So I will select the ones that I need. Then the next thing that you have to do is basically you need to select transform data or you select upload data. So if I'm satisfied with the data I have, I'll basically check transfer load data. If I'm not satisfied, I need to do some data cleaning, then I'll check transform data. At this point, this is where you need to change your date to what the Power BI could recognize. Now, after loading the data, your Power BI may not recognize this date as date. It may be reading it as text. So what I'm going to do is to load this data and then show you where the problem may occur. And then I will come back and transform the data and show you how I solve that problem. So load the data. And basically my data is here. It takes some few minutes to load. And that data will show here once it's loaded. So my data is now loaded. I have two data here, which is customer ID and various product. Now, assuming that I simply want to analyze the products that is probably selling most, and I want to check the dates in which those products sells. So I'll basically choose here the product ID. And then the next thing I want to choose, and that stays in my y-axis, the next thing I want to choose is the dates which this product is sold. So when I choose this date here, it basically shows the date in that case. Now, if you look at the product ID I have here, it shows the date, but it doesn't show it or indicate that this is date. So I got problem here. So if I was to change days to date, I may have a problem by selecting a specific day, like the days in which I set those products. You could see from here, I can select that. And in some cases, it might not even show there. Just show here with all this data, with all the data range. It doesn't really tell you what that date is. I can't choose a day or month or quarter or year. So I got problem with this data because I can't select a specific date that I want. So to change that, I am going to reload the data, and I will show you how you can change that so that you'll be able to select the date, the month, or the year that you are interested in basically identifying what day of the month or day or the year that you have the highest stakes. So what I will do in this case, I'll have to delete this data point. So to delete the data, you could click on this three icon by the far right here. It shows more options. When I click on this, and then it shows me the options to delete it, which is delete from modem. And that will take off that particular data. And then I will do the same thing for the next one and delete it from modem. Now I have no data here. And what I could do here is to get data, or I could basically use the get data here again to get data from my folder. So I'm basically going to click on this to get data. And again, it comes from my worksheet. And in that case, I'll click on connect and I'll have my data fetch. Just like what I did earlier, I'll select the worksheet I'm interested in. I'm interested in these two worksheets. And at this point, I will not load the data. So what I would do, I'll basically transform the data. So which is this option here. Click on transform, and that will show the data editor, Power Query Editor. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I could change this data from be text or to be anything else to date. So if you right click on top of this date, and under this option here, you say change date. Then all it simply needs to do is to change it to date. Okay, so this is one option. And before I change it to date, I'm satisfied with my dating format. So basically, this is month, day, and year. So this is basically the American version of date. So in other places, it could be the day, the month, and the year. So if I'm satisfied with this, I'll simply click again, as I said earlier, change the change the data type, and then I will choose date. And once I choose date, that will change this data formats. So basically, I'm satisfied with the information I have here. If I have anything to clean here, it's the same thing. I could also clean them here. I could also check out for any odd data points. It could be text that is not supposed to be there or anything. So those kind of check could be done in this transformation. Now that I'm satisfied with my data, with the current situation of my data, all I simply need to do is to load my data for analytics. So before I load my data, just to make sure something that if I was not happy with the changes I made here, I could always come back here and I take it off, and then it reverses to normal as it was originally. Now that I'm satisfied with my data, and I come to File, and then I will come to Close and Apply. So the changes I make will apply to the data. So now that I have done that, it's basically going to load. And here it shows error, and I could take a look, and that's error. And basically, there's basically no error. So what I need to do is to apply the changes. I will apply the changes, and then my data will be in the right format that I want it for. And if I go back, my model is still there, which was the previous analysis I did. So if I come back here, basically the information is there, the date and the product. Now, if I want to check, my date format will be different from here, from what it used to be in the previous video. So basically, when I come here, under this date here, it's going to show me various dates. And I'm going to have the days of the month and others. So now there's a problem with this data. I can't still see the number of dates or the month and the right. So what I would do in this case is to change this date here to what we call the date hierarchy, okay? Or I could simply click on this and check out the date hierarchy, which is the year, the quarter, or the month, or the day. Alternatively, if you don't have any of this function, all you simply need to do is to right-click on this, and then you change or you create date hierarchy in your case. Now, if you look at this particular data, it's different from what I saw when I did the previous one. I didn't see it as date, and now that I have changed it from the transformation, it shows here as date. Then what I could do here, I could choose year. I just want the year data, so you could see that from the model here, the result, it shows the data in years. I could also change the data to quarter, and it's basically going to give me quarter, and I could take off the year in this case, and I could choose month or days. So basically, this is how you solve the problem on Power BI if it doesn't show you the dates. Remember, I said you could always transform the data to make sure that it's in the format that is prevalent in the location where you are. There are different ways you can do that. I may produce another video that look at the data delimitation. So the data delimitation will help you to delimit the data so that you could reformat the data into the type of data that you have in your location.